All right. Thank you, everybody, for being patient. We are going to get started. So, hello and welcome to Level Up Your Practice's Content Marketing Strategy. My name is Alex Milner, and I am Raider 8's Content Marketing Specialist. Prior to my time here, I spent the last 5 years in various content marketing roles, most recently serving as the lead copywriter for a digital marketing agency. To say that marketing is my passion is a bit of an over-exaggeration, but in terms of education and career path, it certainly has been the fixture. As such, I'm not only passionate about marketing in general, but I'm fairly passionate about educating others and helping others improve their marketing efforts. And so for today, it's my hope that I can share some insights with you, as well as action items that you can bring back home to your practice to improve your content marketing strategy. And so let's begin. First things first, our agenda for today, it's relatively straightforward. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to kick it back all the way to the basics and explore the fundamentals of content marketing, a thing that is often overlooked by marketers in just about every industry. We're then going to demonstrate the 3M's framework built by those fundamentals, with the goal of having an example for you that you can bring back home to your practice. After, I'm going to highlight some proven social media content strategies that you can utilize, as well as share email campaign ideas for healthcare marketers. And then lastly, we're going to have a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to drop those in the chat. Anyways, let's dive right in, starting with the basics. So for me, as an experienced marketer, the number one mistake I notice by people doing marketing in the healthcare industry is the tendency to jump in too quickly. And honestly, it's pretty understandable in this space in particular, but in all marketing in general, there are so many different methods that it's really easy to get immediately stuck in the weeds, whether it's trying to make social media posts or creating promotional flyers, running paid ads, or any of the other millions of different methods out there. The reality is, though, while it's fairly natural to jump right in, it avoids the basics, which primarily are used to define a strategy. And what happens is when practices fail to define their strategy, and frankly, when any business fails to define their content marketing strategy, all that comes from it is wasted efforts and opportunities, which ultimately results in wasted time and wasted money, which is not what we're looking for. Instead, what we want to do is we want to start with those fundamentals. And within digital marketing and marketing in general, while there's many different forms, every single way that we can do marketing comes down to 3 core components. The first is market, the second is message, and the third is media. You probably already guessed that because it's live on our screen. These basic components serve as a guiding light for nearly every single marketing campaign out there, whether it's a local SEO strategy or a $6 million Super Bowl ad. The reality is that regardless of the tactics used, by defining your 3Ms, your practice is able to better position itself in relation to your ideal audience and communicate with them more thoroughly in a way that connects and pushes your brand forward. And so let's actually dive in and talk about what these 3 fundamentals are. Our first fundamental is our market. Your practice's market is your target demographic, the primary patients you look to serve, segmented by things like age, income, health history, and other relevant characteristics. Generally speaking, it is also the market that your specialty typically has in terms of clientele, as well as your location's population, socioeconomic conditions, and available health services. In the very simplest form, your market is who you are trying to get into the door and who you are trying to work with. So for example, an ophthalmologist in Naples, Florida, which has a heavily elderly population, will likely have a target market of elderly local patients seeking eye care and related treatments. Alternatively, an oncologist in Lincoln, Nebraska may have a more broad range target market, as well as both local and commuting patients, because there isn't as many healthcare services available and there's more rural areas around it that have to drive further distances. That difference is fairly drastic. And when we verbalize that, it's pretty obvious it's going to lead to different marketing strategies. But often we skip that step entirely, so we don't know who we're trying to talk to in the first place. And in the case of these two, it might mean that their marketing would look fairly similar if they didn't define those. Now, of course, defining our market is important, but we have to figure out what we're trying to communicate towards our market. And so next, our fundamental is message. And as its name suggests, your practice's message communicates your primary purpose and selling points, and it delivers it through your chosen marketing strategy, which, to skip ahead, is media. In the simplest terms, message is your practice's what. It is what your practice offers, what makes it unique, and what comprises it. So your available services and offerings, your current physicians and staff, and other key differentiators that separate you from your competition or similar practices in the area. When it comes to defining your core messaging, it's really important to make sure that it aligns with your target market. So the previous step, as well as aligns with your media strategy moving forward. For example, a pediatric primary care provider will use entirely different messaging than an orthopedist that works with adults, because among other things, they may want to convey that they are a safe place for children, that they understand and work well with pediatrics and things like that, or an orthopedist wouldn't need to communicate that at all. Of course, message is great, but it only matters if you have a delivery mechanism, which is our media. As one can expect, media is the method used to deliver your practice's messaging to your target market. So it's things like search engine optimization or pay-per-click ads. It is the social media posts that you're putting out there or your email campaigns. Your media is also TV ads if you choose that area. And of course, it's even things like billboards or physical marketing. In a lot of ways, it's also word of mouth sharing and referrals. It's pretty much any way how your market learns your message. Now, while there are many different strategies, your ideal media method will always and should always align with your target market, your core messaging, and your overall goals. Those three things right there, goals, core messaging, and market, are vital to creating a good media strategy. And when they're not there, all that happens is costly, ineffective campaigns. So as an example, I'm fairly young, but I imagine all of us here understand what TikTok is in some way. TikTok as an application is one of the top media outlets we have today, and it primarily is utilized by people under the age of 40 with really large pockets in that 25 to 40 range, as well as in that like 15 or so year range. Now, if you are a pediatric ophthalmologist where you are trying to create messaging, not necessarily for the kids themselves, because they can't make the decision, but for their parents are likely in that age demographic that would be on TikTok. They're likely under the age of 40, and they might be available to see it. And of course, if kids see it as well, they might gain a little bit more comfort with your office. However, if you were like a glaucoma specialist who works primarily with elderly patients, TikTok probably wouldn't be your best media outlet, because the primary demographic, elderly people, are not generally on the application. And so as a result, you might want to look at different methods, whether physical advertising or utilizing a social media that is like Facebook, that's more commonly used by that age demographic. Now, these fundamentals are great and all. They're fun to talk about, but in reality, they're not really like the easiest to work with unless you see them in action, unless you can see them work through the framework. And so we are going to do the 3 M's in practice with my brand new orthopedics practice, Milner's Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. It was founded in 2021 in Boulder, Colorado. This is what the inside of our office looks like. It's very professional. Oh, one sec. There we go. So this is what we look like. We like to serve our area in the greater Boulder area, and we're going to go ahead and work through the framework together with some guiding questions. So first, starting at the beginning, our market. Now, I put 4 questions on here, but there are plenty more that you can utilize to identify your market. But to start, we've got Milner's Orthopedic Sports Medicine. What are the primary characteristics of your practice's typical patient? Age, gender, income level, etc. Demographic data is always important to define for our market. We need to know who we're talking to. And so for Milner Orthopedic Sports Medicine, we are looking at a demographic of 20-year-olds and older, a relatively broad range, but starting at a younger age for most orthopedic treatments. Our location, we're looking to work with people or serve people within the greater Denver and greater Boulder area. And the average income level we're looking at is $50,000 or more per year, which is the relative standard for the age group that we're trying to attract. Now, that's great, but when we're trying to communicate our market, we're also need to define our primary specialties and services that we're trying to offer, because we need to find a way to unify the two together. And so what are our primary specialties and offerings? Well, the basic orthopedics and sports medicine. We do hip and knee joint replacements when necessary, revision surgeries, ligament reconstruction, and primarily treatment for sports-related injuries. That last one is major key to our defining our market, because we're working with younger people. So they're likely coming in with injuries as a result of some kind of activity, which leads us to our next one. What are the behaviors of our target market? Again, 20-plus-year-olds living near the mountains in Colorado. Our first one is outdoor sports. A lot of our people who we're trying to market towards and are coming into our office enjoy outdoor sports, which may have a high rate of injury. So skiing and snowboarding, hiking, and other things that put a stress on the body. Similarly, the Boulder, Denver area is extremely into exercise. And so standard exercising methods, biking, running, things like that, all of which are natural wear and tears on the body and could result in injuries that may need orthopedic assistance or sports medicine at a younger age. Now, our our competitors' target demographic is important to understand as well, because it's where we see the differentiation and where we may better understand our market as a whole. And for us in our area, our target demographic for our competitors is elderly patients, 60 plus, seeking replacement surgery. So in the area, we don't have people around us who are trying to serve our demographic. Now, that's really important to understand, because as we move into message, we're going to determine it utilizing the idea of our market and how to span it or how to twist it towards our message. So again, Milner's Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, running through our guided questions. First things first, what are the primary pain points that drive your target market towards your practice? A pain point are things that are either frustrations or they are motivations that drive someone to the door of one practice and drive someone away from another one. And so remember, our demographic is 20-year-olds who are sporty, and the primary competitors are people serving elderly people getting reconstructive surgery. And so our first pain points for our audience are the local offerings focused primarily on geriatric care and treatments. They aren't seeing and working with people who are generally younger, which can be really frustrating, whether on an empathetic level or in getting the treatment we need. And then secondly, a lot of the local offerings aren't focusing on sports-related treatment in medicine, which again, our demographic is like craving. Now, when we consider those pain points, we need to make sure that we are able to answer those pain points, as well as have a brand personality that reflects it. And so what's our brand personality and values? Well, this is mine. This is Milner Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and I've created the practice in my own image. And so our brand personality is much like me. We are young, we are sporty, and we are active. That's not to say that the people inside the office are necessarily young. We're not looking to discriminate by any means, but we are looking to stay up into the current space with our clients. We want to make sure that we understand their needs. We're hip, if you will. We're also sporty because we want to make sure that we're giving the treatment necessary, and we're active. We personally understand the emotional side of everything, and we want to make sure that's communicated. It is frustrating to get injured and be an active person. Now, what kind of language and tone appeals to your practice's target market? Ideally, in this situation, your brand personality would be somewhat in line with that tone and language. And so it's important to make sure it is that way. And if it's not, to alter that brand personality. Luckily, I am just like our target market. And so our tone and language they're looking for is informative, optimistic, and sporty. On the informative level, every patient that ever comes into a medical practice wants to be sure that their practitioner is informed in the area. So we need to communicate to them that we understand their needs and we understand the best treatments available. Importantly, because we're working with younger patients who are likely getting injured in some kind of sports-related injury, they likely want to get back out onto the mountain or back out running as fast as possible. And so they need a little bit of optimism. They want people who can tell them that the recovery is something you can do. It's a treatment that can get you back out as soon as possible, instead of creating an atmosphere where it seems like we're losing a thing that we love. And then lastly, we're going after people who are exercise heavy. And so they want to make sure that our tone and language aligns with theirs and is sporty as well. As an aside, when I was an athlete in college, I was a runner, and I went to an orthopedic and sports medicine for treatment during a summer. And after one visit, I left because the language that they were utilizing in the office showed incompatibility with the sport I was in. It showed they didn't understand the day-to-day life that I had. They didn't understand the wear and tear in the body, and their recommendations weren't necessarily things that were consistent with the experiences that we had had. And so it drove me away. That alignment is fairly important. And as such, in my orthopedics, I'm trying to make sure that that's aligned. Now, on that way, we have tone and language. What kind of industry-specific terms do we have to include to make sure our practice's messaging is in line with that tone? For one, standard orthopedics and sports medicine language. We have to seem informed. We have to make sure we can communicate. Certainly utilizing plain language so they can understand, but we have to make sure we know what we're doing. And then secondly, we need sports activity and language. If we're going to talk to a patient about skiing, we should be able to empathize with them and communicate with them. That doesn't mean that we're necessarily skiers, but we can at least have the lingo and understanding of what they're talking about. Now, legal and regulatory considerations. For healthcare practices, this is going to be the same regardless of any method you ever use. The severity of it is just going to depend on the methods. And so for us, of course, there's always HIPAA concerns. We have to make sure that we're HIPAA compliant in everything we do in our marketing. And then secondly, we need to be CAN-SPAM Act compliant. CAN-SPAM is our regulatory measures created for commercial emails and other online advertising. And so in the space of healthcare especially, we just need to make sure we're aligning with that, especially with those HIPAA guidelines as well. And then finally, what are the primary goals of our marketing campaign? Our goals are pretty simple. We want to increase brand awareness and we want to increase patient acquisition. And when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. We want people, whether they are already hurt or if they do get hurt, we're not rooting for people to get hurt, but if they get hurt, we want them to think like, where can I go to get help? I saw that advertisement. I saw that Facebook post. I remember that email. Milner's Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. And our ultimate goal, of course, is to drive more people into the door and increase our acquisition, which we would, in theory, do. If more people know about us and know that we offer the services they need, they should be coming through the door. Of course, that messaging is great. We're defining it, we're working it through, but it doesn't matter if we don't know how to get it in front of our people's eyes and in their ears. So last, our media, establishing it. Boom, Milner Sports and Medicine again. Our target market's preferences. How do they like to be communicated with? Again, we're a pretty broad range, 20 and up. And so that creates a little bit of a broadness that as a result, we need to make sure our scope is defined really well. But for us, our two big places, because of that broad range and the youth that we have, our first, of course, is social media. Facebook and Instagram are primary places, but we also find people on TikTok and other outlets. When we define our media specifically, we should be looking towards trying to get either the most broad range possible or putting people in segments that we can like target specifically. Secondly, email is a huge preference for our target market. In this day and age, just about every 20-year-old and up has an email, and it's relatively normalized to receive promotional emails in our inboxes. Obviously, not everybody likes it, but it's normalized to a point where it's a place that we can utilize consistently. Of course, there are other methods outside of these preferences, but considering that our strategy, as we'll continue to define, is likely to be digital and it's more cost effective, those are the two that we're going to be focusing on. Now, worth considering, what methods does our target market use to determine their healthcare provider? The first one is social proof. Everybody likes to work with a practitioner who has good reviews, testimonials, and shows their knowledge. And so that sways us, whether it's word of mouth advertising, like somebody telling me that I'm great, telling me that it's weird to talk about yourself, telling them that Milner's Orthopedic and Sports Medicine is great, or seeing online ads and reviews that showcase that social proof. Secondly is online search. In this day and age, as we are no strangers, most people go online and will search something like orthopedics and sports medicine near me. ophthalmologist near me, whatever that is. And so we need to make sure that we are aware of that space and that we are able to help them determine based upon their online search. Now, what is our practice's marketing budget and available resources? Things like times, personnel, and tools. Time, budget, and resources. For one, we're fairly lucky. We're a growing practice who's really just trying to define our strategy. We've already been actively marketing. And so we have a practice marketing associate. His name is Alex Milner, and he's great at his job. It's weird that he has the same name as the lead surgeon, but that's okay. But we do have a limited budget, less than $500 per month. The reality is our marketing associate does a great job, but we just don't have the bandwidth to really do aggressive campaigns. And so we need to make sure that everything we do is relatively cost effective. Now, on top of that, what marketing tactics are our competitors using? This is important to understand because we might be able to identify spaces our competitors aren't on, or we might be able to use them as people that we can demonstrate the value of those spaces we're trying to get into. Luckily for us, our competitors are trying to attract elderly patients primarily, and so the online space isn't as useful for them. Instead, they're doing physical marketing like billboards, TV advertisements, pamphlets, and letters, which leaves the open space for us a lot easier. Now, again, this might feel like a repeat, but it is vital to understand your goals when you're doing your media as well. And so our goals, once again, are brand awareness and patient acquisition. We want to be pushing on platforms that get us in front of people's eyes and so that they remember us. And then we ultimately want them to be able to come through the door, whether it's the very next day or 6 months down the line when they have a ski accident. Ultimately, that begs the question, though, how does our practice measure the success of our campaign? First things first, patients acquired. This one's an important one to understand. Of course, we want to make sure we understand patients coming through the door, but it's not always easy to understand how they referred to get there or to refer to get through the door. Instead, the way to go about it is not to look through and like ask every patient, like, how did you get here? That's a nice piece of information. But instead, we should be evaluating at least on a quarterly basis, a yearly basis, or on a 6-month basis, our increase of patient acquisition in relation to our campaigns. And so it might not be one-to-one, but if we analyze throughout a year of running these campaigns and see that our patient acquisition rate hasn't gone up at all, we know that it's not successful as a campaign if we're not doing any better. Alternatively, if everything has doubled since we started these campaigns, it shows. The most important part on that, though, is not evaluating on a week-by-week or month-by-month basis. Micro analysis doesn't really do anything. A macro level, long-term, will show that data. Similarly, to evaluate awareness, evaluating digital engagements is important. There is a fine line between vanity metrics and valuable digital engagement, but luckily we have a marketing associate to parse through all of that. Ultimately, though, what we're looking for is we're looking to see posts that grow and that they get in front of eyes, and then we're looking to demonstrate their value through the patients acquired. Now, that is a lot. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, but we're going to go ahead and bring it together, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is to realize what your fundamentals are by just creating these bullet points. And so with these on the screen, basically it reads out to say, Milner's Orthopedics and Sports Medicine targets 20-year-olds and older in the Boulder, Denver area who are seeking treatments for sports-related injuries. That's our market. To meet our audience, we're looking to communicate that we offer sports-related treatments for sports-related injuries with a specific focus on more active patients who are generally younger. We do this in part because our audience is younger. Overall, our goal is to provide the treatments and rehabilitation necessary for our patients to get back into action. And importantly, we are not just doctors, we are active in the sports community. So we can talk the talk, we can walk the walk, and we can empathize with our patients as we try and give them optimism before they get back wherever activity they're trying to do. Now, importantly, to connect with our audience, to push that message forward, we're primarily going to use social media and email marketing campaigns. We chose these two because, for one, they're both extremely age relevant. Just about every 20-year-old and up is on some kind of platform or has an email. And they let us connect with a broad range of audiences, which we have. 20 and up is the majority of the population. Importantly, though, both methods are extremely cost effective with quality solutions available for below our $500 per month budget, meaning we can execute in a way that doesn't break the bank. And then lastly, we have the opportunity to share a variety of content, including at-home treatments and social proof. And so when we verbalize in that way, when we go through the framework, it becomes very clear what our direction is, and it doesn't take particularly that much time, which is really nice. Now, within the example, we're going to transition over. We're focusing on social media, so why not look at some ideas for social media content for healthcare providers? To start, we have provider introductions. So this first slide are some fairly basic ones that you can implement on all of your social media. Provider introductions are great because in healthcare, the industry is inherently intimate. It is understandable that most patients want to get a sense of who their provider is or their potential provider is before they ever set foot in the office. Now, a lot of us online on our practice websites, we have biographies and things like that, and they can be helpful, but they're not necessarily the most personal. Oftentimes, they focus more on professional highlights and background, which the average person can't parse through or won't necessarily understand what is like valuable. And if anything, it doesn't feel personal regardless. And so introducing your team of physicians and staff members on social media can offer familiarity to your current and future patients that they crave. Where biographies are often limited to professional backgrounds, social media posts can highlight more personal information about your providers, or at least offer a mix. So for example, you might have a post that shares why they entered the field, maybe their background, where they went to school, but why are they here? As well as potentially their hobbies outside of the office. And so again, for Milner Orthopedics, this would be a chance for me to highlight, like, I run, I ski, I bike, I am a part of this community, and I understand the emotional value of it, as well as the physical value that our clients have, our patients have, excuse me. Now, piggybacking off of that, there's also operational updates, which work fairly similarly. Unlike other social media posts, actually, operational updates are specifically targeting current patients. They can do new patients, but when you think about it, a new patient's unlikely to go to your Facebook page. A current patient, however, is already going to like it. These posts are going to highlight any changes in your practices, so updated hours or changes in available services. During COVID-19's peak pandemic, those, of course, were with posts about whether changes in hours, mask mandates, vaccines availability, things like that. Now, on my example, it's the bottom left one. That is my local optometrist. Their post is fairly boring. It communicates it well, but what's nice about operational updates is that that's a place that you can kind of play in. And so if you identify that your audience is younger, or you want to have like a hip new brand or whatever it sounds like, you can always engage in updates that are humorous with memes or TikTok dances or things like that, as long as it aligns with your message and your market. Lastly, our third option on this screen is the behind the scenes post. We as patients understand that you run well-oiled machines. But the reality is we don't see the moving parts, and we don't see the work that goes in. And so it's a no-brainer to share posts about your facility, to share posts about your operations, and things like that, to pull back the curtain, if you will. When you're doing that, it can look in a lot of different ways. You can do employee spotlights, which are fairly similar to introductions. You can showcase new procedures and things that are available in treatments. You can also highlight just inter-office culture and things like that, which create a comfort. So if you do Halloween dress-ups or parties, like in our example to the right, that's a great time to showcase that. And what it does is it creates a more personal attachment to your brand and makes you seem like people, which we understand that, but as consumers, as patients, what we're looking for are people that we can go work with who are people as well. Now, continuing on, some more ideas, awards and accolades. Just like reviews and testimonials, practices accomplishments serve as social proof, and they affirm for prospective and current patients that you provide quality care. As a result, if your practice is receiving accolades, whether it's local recognition, industry awards, or internal successes, you should definitely be spotlighting that, sharing that with your audience to showcase that you guys are hitting a high level. Importantly, though, regardless of the accolade, these highlight posts should summarize the accomplishment, acknowledge who earned it, and express gratitude for it. Everybody likes humility. Everybody likes to understand who won the award. And importantly, everybody likes to understand what the award means. Saying I won an Oscar is great, but if the person doesn't know it's the top award for movies, then nobody understands that. Saying you won some award for your practice being the best in the area is awesome, but if it has an ambiguous name, it doesn't mean anything without the context. Now, changing gears a bit, we also have educational content. As a marketer, thought leadership is a big proponent of my perspective moving forward, and educational content is a great opportunity for that. In many ways, educational content is an effective way for healthcare providers to engage with their patients on social media without and just at any time in between their visits. These posts can be presented in numerous ways. They can be a text post, a link to studies, infographics. As you can see on the screen with Mid-Atlantic Urology, they're giving a graphic to demonstrate kidney stones and things like that. These posts can cover a range of topics such as specific conditions or diseases related to a specialty. For example, a dermatology practice can share information on common skin diseases or disorders like alopecia or eczema. But similarly, they don't have to necessarily relate directly to your specialty. They can instead provide updates on COVID-19 protocols, maybe relevant statistics for flu season if you're working with patients that get the flu, and things like that. Regardless, though, the most important thing is to ensure that your content is very clear to understand and that we utilize plain language. Healthcare has big words. Healthcare has words that the average person doesn't understand. And so we need to make sure that it's communicated in easy and understandable ways. Importantly, the result of this thought leadership is that it builds trust. And then lastly, on this section, we have community outreach and events. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up in Little League, my local orthodontist paid for and sponsored every single team. As a result, they built a good foundation in the community, and just about everybody went there. People like working with healthcare providers who give back to the community and work with the community. And so if you do that, you should be highlighting that on your social media posts, ensuring that you have your branding readily available and seen, as well as your staff and their names. You can do it for literally anything. Little League is my example, but if you create a community fund drive, that's great. Or if you're helping lead a countywide healthcare initiative, awesome as well. Really, anything you're doing to give back is worth shining because people want to work with somebody that cares about their community. And then lastly, we have social media proof and patient testimonials. Previously, we noted that that is a huge decision-making opportunity. And for our client or for our patients, it is going to sway them. And so on your social media, when possible, you should be highlighting your 5-star reviews that are left on leading healthcare review platforms, such as Google, Vitals, WebMD, and more. These can be posted sporadically. You can do them whenever you want, or you can make a thing like Testimonial Tuesday, where you can highlight different ones. There's multiple ways you can go about it. You can create graphics like the one seen on the screen, or you can simply copy and paste them in. A third method that you can utilize is Raterate Social, which is a feature in our product, which goes through and all the online reviews and methodically chooses reviews that are high quality, that don't break HIPAA standards, and then shares them on your social media platform like Facebook so patients can see it without you ever clicking a button. Now, that example is on the far right. You can see 2 posts that were made by 2 of our partners, both of which have relatively high engagement and both of which shine that their practices are great. In addition to reviews, patient stories are also a really good form of social proof. So patients sharing their experiences. This one requires a bit more permission as well as HIPAA compliance. But if your practice can do it, it can offer an opportunity for an inside look at the procedures and treatments you have and the legitimate experience that patients have. When you have good patient experience, more people want to come through the door. Now that's great. We've done social media. We also want to advertise on email. So how do we go about that? Amazing. I made a slide. That's fantastic. I had the answer already prepared. First things first, these two right here, welcome emails and appointment reminders, are probably things you already use. They're very commonly a part of different portals and things like that, but they're often underutilized. And so when we talk about welcome emails, we're of course talking about emails that introduce your new patients to your practice, your providers, and your policies. Very standard. What's important to remember is that these are an opportunity to communicate before you ever come through the door on multiple things. So the standard ones, you introduce your staff, you talk about office hours, contact options, and patient expectations like pre-visit prep and appointment day expectations. But you can also hit with opportunities to upsell your practice's primary services. You can also use it for a chance to share reviews and things like that. What's really cool with email campaigns is you can also, with a good quality solution, make them automated. And so if you have HubSpot or MailChimp, you can set up welcome emails that are sent automatically using pre-existing templates, which maximizes your efficiency and allows you to evaluate its reach. Similarly, appointment reminders are often underutilized. Typically, you get something what's on the right. So it's like, hi, Linda, your appointment is on September 29th at 9:30. See you there. And that's great. That does a lot, but it is just like the edge of the iceberg. Appointment reminders, of course, do exactly what they suggest. They remind people their appointments, but the applications can be more than just sending a few days in advance. With a marketing solution, again, like HubSpot, your patients can be segmented by appointment type and previous behavior, then sent messages previous or specifically tailored to them. So for instance, I never miss appointments. And so maybe if that's my trend within my doctor's office, they only send me one reminder like a week out. For patients who are often no-shows, perhaps they get a few reminders. And then along the way, perhaps in the emails within that segmenting, there might be things that are based upon our type of appointment we have. So maybe we have like a standard routine checkup, not much expectations to go over, but maybe we have like a surgery we're going into. And that would be a great time in that reminder to also set up expectations of what needs to be done coming in. Now, going off those two, we have two more options: the promotional and special offers and educational content. The reality is our goal as providers is to serve as many people as possible. And one way to get people through the door is through offerings and different promotions. And so to acquire and retain patients, you can use your email campaigns to promote special offers and discounts like new services or free consultations. Obviously, how that works will be very different depending on the kind of space you're in. But ultimately, there is always somewhat of an opportunity to potentially make an offering or a promotion. And of course, if you can't, then don't send them. But similarly, promotional emails can be used to upsell existing patients on additional services and products, as well as highlight ones that are becoming newly available or newly available specialists that they may not have been able to see, because a specialist is part of your offering. Now, educational content works very similar to how it would be online. When it comes to engaging patients in between visits, few strategies are as effective as educational content, whether it's in your email box or online. When we talk about email or educational content, we talk about it in two ways, the first being thought leadership and the second being relevant health information. In terms of thought leadership, our emails can include links to blogs and articles about specific conditions or diseases related to our specialty. Again, we gave the dermatology example before, but an optometrist might send info on like eye disorders and diseases or preventative measures to prevent that from or anything from happening. Similarly, your emails could have relevant health information. So again, the COVID-19 pandemic is a great example when that was really common. But let's say that like you're a dermatology office and you want to send information regarding sun protection. So that'd be a great thing to send during the summer. Regardless, providing valuable and relevant content helps build trust with your patients and positions your practice as a credible source of information. Importantly as well, educational content is really great because it is not super invasive. You can avoid it, and it's not really like an advertisement. It doesn't feel markety. It is something that is there to build trust. Of course, your emails can have it all written out in there, or like in the example on the right, they link it towards their blog with a call to action. Depending how you organize it, if you have a lot of information, the CTA perspective is probably best, but it really comes down to your marketing strategy. And then lastly, we again have social proof and patient testimonials. With healthcare's ongoing digital transformation, prospective patients are using online reviews more than ever before. And so you should be trying to get those in front of them as much as possible. Now, in terms of email, what you can do is you can send email campaigns or include in email campaigns reviews that you get. And so our examples on the left are two graphics that were created. Obviously, they can be shared on social media, but if we're creating a welcome email, for example, perhaps in it, you include that patient testimonial. Or if you're really looking to affirm your status and show your social proof, you can always create campaigns that are focused specifically on that. Similarly, you don't necessarily have to include like text or images. You can also link your patients towards pages that provide those reviews. And so Rate8's verified review pages, which are a widget that can be put onto your website, can stream in different 5-star reviews from your clients, or from your patients. And so on the right, we have an example of what that feed looks like. And you can see there are 4 different outlets in which those patients submitted reviews come. And so from an email, you might say like, check our reviews, put a CTA, and it goes to the page with that widget. And now I can look through that stream and see that Dr. Lou is outstanding. I can see that my experience or someone's experience with them was amazing, and so on. They're professional, intelligent, and it's all right there. And the great thing about Rate8 verified reviews is that those can be done by every single person in your practice, or for every single person in your practice. Now, those strategies for social media and for email are just the beginning. And so if you're sitting here and you're thinking like, this is great, but I really want to dive in more, I already have the solution for you. Rate8 and our team created a 2023 healthcare marketing guide. In it, among other things, you'll find a much more in-depth explanation of the marketing fundamentals, including more guiding questions available to really help you pinpoint your market, your message, and your media. You'll also find a goal setting section, which not only will share a framework, but will have a guiding example on each stage. So you can help figure out your goals, not just in terms of metrics, but in terms of considering things that might impact those goals, whether it's budget, constraints on capacity, and things like that. We also highlight various different digital marketing strategies, such as search engine optimization, pay-per-click, reputation management, which is Rate8's entire game, email campaigns, and social media marketing. If you're looking to download that guide, which was written in-house and designed in-house as well, you can go to the link down below at rate8.com/free-healthcare-marketing-guide, or you can wait. Tomorrow we'll be sending out an email to review or to highlight the webinar. And in that email, we have a free download link as well. Of course, if you were piqued at all in your interest of Rate8 as a whole, you can also schedule a demo with our team by going to rate8.com/schedule demo, or rate8.com at all and going to the demo page. On your demo, we'll highlight features like Rate8 social and verified reviews like we've talked here, as well as our team will showcase how we can upgrade your online presence and transform how your reputation is seen throughout your space. Now we are coming to the end of our presentation, so we'll go ahead and open up to any questions. If you have anything that you'd like me to answer, please let me know. Reading through. Our first question I have is from Matt, and he asks, or they ask, what are some considerations of sharing testimonials from third-party platforms regarding the restrictions on the healthcare community? Our number one consideration for sharing testimonials and reviews comes down towards HIPAA and patient privacy. Ultimately, outside of that, it's pretty standard to be able to share. A great thing with Rate8 is that our system itself will funnel through your online reviews on third-party platforms like Vitals and Healthgrades and make it so it already finds the ones that are HIPAA compliant. Other considerations, just making sure that they are positively reflecting your practice. As well as you want to make sure they're clear. When the dialogue in the reviews is not understandable in plain language, they're not necessarily effective. I'm going to allow another minute or two for questions to come on in. I'd like to think that that means that I did a great job, but I could use some water. So if you need a second, feel free to put in a question there. Quiet crowd. We'll allow for 30 more seconds to settle. Of course, as we are waiting on that, I'm going to go ahead and get up our contact page. And so I, like many people who watch presentations, can never think of questions right on the spot. If you would like to send me any questions you have, you can always contact me at amilner@raider8.com. If you have any interest in our product, of course, you can contact us at info@raider8.com. You can reach out to us via phone at the number provided, or you can check out our website with plenty more information. As a plug, we're also growing in our thought leadership on healthcare reputation management. And so live on the blog right now, we have content for rural providers and whether or not they should consider online reputation management. We have a brand new piece out on improving the patient experience, utilizing the insights of one of our clients, and much, much more. So if you're looking for more there as well, you can go to raider8.com. There's also, of course, plenty of marketing related material. It looks like we don't have any more questions flooding in at this time. So this is a great time to tie things off. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming to this webinar. I hope that there are things that you can bring home to improve your social media and other content marketing strategies. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.